Talking Web is back. Hey, I'm so sorry. I've been not putting out as much content right now. The last like 10 days, I worked 10 to 12 days straight, 12-hour days. So I've been really under beat down with work and everything. So hopefully it's back on track now. A lot of great news. Like I said, when I was gone, Keelon Russell was named Alabama starting quarterback for 2026. That was a big thing, right? And some injuries and different things like that. Like I said, um, but first, we're going to dive into Alabama's QB battle. Like I said, we've been talking here on this show about it all the time that, it's going to come down to who can perform more. And like I said, Austin Mack has a great ceiling. I could see him starting at Arkansas, Mississippi State, even Ole Miss, places like that, Michigan State. A lot of different teams that he could start at, right? But you got to compare the two guys. And when Keelon Russell, what we saw on film, what we saw on A-Day, he's performing at a higher consistency level, right? Mack gives Alabama a higher floor. Russell gives Alabama a higher ceiling. And the distinction is very important, right? Mack's advantage is that he can operate the offense from the pocket. He's got great size. He's a big guy. He can attack defenses. Russell, he gives you another dimension, right? When the play starts breaking down, he can extend it. He's a guy that can keep going and keep looking downfield and make things happen, and you've got to account for his legs. And in fact, that he can just scramble in the background, right? Which, Austin Mack, we've said it many times here, he's a statue. He's like Carson Beck. And ultimately, I think that's what won out, right? So, it, we saw it in the spring game. We've seen it in August. We saw it all through that time, It's a combination of a lot of things why Russell won it. He won it because he showed he could operate the offense, right? He showed he could make the throws. He showed poise. He showed his ability to create when the play wasn't clean, right? And he showed he could continue to do things when against Alabama's defense in these practices, right? So that was huge. So I think that's ultimately what won it, right? Keelon Russell can just simply do things that Austin Mack cannot do. And we still don't know for sure if that offensive line is a mid-grade offensive line, subpar offensive line like last year, or going to be great. Now, we haven't had a great offensive line in probably about 6 years, to be fair. But the scrimmage has played a really big importance in Keelon winning it, right? Like I said, and offensive lines can distort things, right? But Kalen DeBoer previously acknowledged after the spring scrimmage, remember if you guys remember this, neither quarterback had played up to the standard and expectations at that part, right? So he had to see more, right? Like I said, we're not asking who can just throw a pretty ball and looks good standing back there in the pocket, right? The offensive staff is basically asking who reads the defense faster, who gets the offense in a correct play, who handles pressure, who makes correct protection adjustments, who protects the football. These are all things that they were looking at, and they hadn't seen it fully yet in the spring. So that's kind of what happened. That's where we're at. Arm talent is great, but extending plays, escaping pressure, when you turn broken plays into a positive play, that's huge. And ultimately, Keelon gives Alabama that side of everything, right? So, always accounting for him and that run threat as well as his arm, that keeps up defensive coordinators at night. That makes them lose hair. And these are things you want. Whereas, you got Austin Mack, and I think he is a a power 5 top quarterback. He will get picked up by somebody. He will be making him, good money next year. I feel bad for him. As Alabama fans, I think we liked him. We were rooting for him. But ultimately, Keelon just won out. And like I said, the components of the defensive guys on the other field and their coaches, that whole dynamic changes with Keelon Russell, where it doesn't with Mack. And that's a fact. If you got Mack, you're like, we just got to keep him in the pocket. We got to play good defense on the back end. And that's fine. We'll be fine. Excuse me. And that's where I think that you couldn't look away from Keelon Russell's talent and what he can do. And like I said, and you also the other factor as well is that Ryan Grubb's playbook changes. With Mac, you've got the run, you've got the pass, not so much extending plays. We had a deep dive a while back on Mac in the spring about that and we proved it in that video. He could not run the ball. He could not extend plays. And his high school stats prove that. And I don't think they've really changed. And speed is one of those things you can't just work on and get better, like learning a playbook or learning to read defenses. That's something you can't teach, right? And like I said, Ryan Grubb doesn't have to call the same offense with Keelon Russell playing. The potentially what opens up with Keelon Russell is you can do zone read, you can do QB keepers, you can do RPOs. They have designed QB runs, which let's be honest, in bootlegs, we don't want to run him a lot because he's not a Cam Newton type guy, even if he was that size of a guy, or if he had the body size of an Austin Mack, you get beat down in the SEC trying to run it all the time, you know. But he could also do sprint outs, moving the pocket left to right, up and back. He can do read option concepts, play action concepts, and run past conflictions for linebackers that are trying to make your eyes be, focused on whatever their assignment is. Well, you can't do that too much with him, right? So that's another thing that opens up. Also, I thought it was a very interesting comparison that Locked On Bama, I'm going to give them credit for this because they kind of compared that, Keelon Russell is kind of like a Michael Penix type guy, right? He can kind of run past, do everything. Penix style passing, plus he has a legitimate quarterback rushing threat, right? So I think when you add everything up, you just couldn't have him sit the bench in favor of a guy with a little bit more experience. But let's be fair, Austin Mack doesn't have game experience. He's got practice experience, maybe a little bit of playbook experience, but overall, when you come to overall game experience and big game experience, they both have the same right now. Whereas Russell just has a higher ceiling. That's all it is, And the fact is, we don't know how good that offensive line is going to be. I don't think it could be any worse than last year, but if it's the same or somewhat comparable, you're going to have that extra ability in the mobility that Keelon Russell has to maybe hide some of that. That's a fact. I'm not saying that is the true, and I don't even think that was a factor in the decision to pick him, right? But I definitely think that that's one of the things, man. So, and like I said, again, not to beat a dead horse, but with Keelon Russell, you can't really lock in on the run, lock in on the quarterback staying in the pocket if you're a defensive guy, or if you're a defensive backfield seat cornerback, or if you're a linebacker, right? So I think that's a big factors in all of this. So, like I said, Keelon Russell could be that missing piece that really helps us out. I think he's potential could be not this year, but a Heisman candidate type guy. He is high risk, high reward. He's a young guy coming in pretty much as a sophomore with no playing experience. And we're going to have to take our lumps. He's not going to be perfect every single game, but that's where you hope Adrian Clem and some of these linemen can really open up that run game, right? That's where you hope they can develop. So if you have a bad game, you still can win a bad game. You can win one of those close, dirty games sometimes you have in the SEC, right? So, and there is risk, like I said. With all this, he's young, potential to have bad reads, missed throws, holding the ball too long. SEC defense is confusing him, turnovers, trying to make things happen when there's nothing there. But you have to be willing to go with some of the bad to have the good. You have to go with the bad to get him that experience so he's even better his junior year, right? So I do think big plays and his ability is going to outweigh the bad, right? So I think that's kind of where you have to be, right? And when you look at overall, excuse me, I always yawn. I get tired. Been doing a lot lack of sleep. When you compare these guys side to side, right? and this is just kind of my comparison and breakdown. Um, Keelon Russell and Austin Mack are pretty much the same on arm talent for what I'm seeing. Size, Keelon Russell's a little bit smaller, right? Goes to Mack. Experience, well, you got to give the 4 stars to Mack. He's got more experience, not game experience. He's got more practice experience, right? More plays in the practice huddle and all that. Keelon, maybe 2 stars on that. Mobility, Austin Mack's maybe a 2-star guy. Mobility, he's got to go 5-star. Keelon Russell, right? Play extension, right? In that category, Austin Mack, maybe a 3-star. Keelon Russell, 5-star. Pocket passing, they're probably about the same, right? Design run threats, Austin Mack's maybe a 2-star. Keelon Russell's a 5. He has potential for 5. Offensive flexibility, Keelon Russell's a 5. Austin Mack's maybe a 3. And like I said, that just goes back to saying Mack just can't do as much as Keelon Russell, right? So it just is what it is. And I'm excited to see where the season takes us. I'm excited to see him grow. I'm excited to see where the offense goes and how versatile we can be. But like I said, it also is how quick Russell can be consistent SEC quarterback play. That's another a big factor there. But I think everybody's excited. I think everybody's happy. I think we all knew this was coming. I think that I was a little off in the fact I figured that DeBoer was going to pick his quarterback maybe 3rd game of the season, 2nd game of the season. But I think he's seen the talent size and the overall picture that he needs to see to go ahead and pick his quarterback. I think there was no sense in prolonging the inevitable. And don't get me wrong, you're one ankle tweak away from Austin Mack coming in, or the other 2 quarterbacks that are on scholarship. It's just a fact. So, if you're a big Austin Mack guy, it's not a loss. It just shows you that Keelon Russell can do slightly more. Switching gears now, there has been, I think we kind of called it here. I was kind of throwing darts at a board, but I really felt like what I had seen from Traeshon Brown, that running back 3-star out of Texas we recruited, was very, very good. And I thought it was comparable to anything we had heard, because we haven't seen anything, from E.J. Crowell or A.K. Deer. Now, A.K. Deer and Crowell would have gotten a lot of playing time this year, but unfortunately, the injury bug has kind of crept up on him, kind of gotten him a little bit. E.J. Crowell is still dealing with stuff, lower leg injury. So is A.K. Deer. A.K. Deer looks to be out until probably mid-6th, 7th game of the season. And when you've got, Riley and you've got Brown and you've got Hill taking all the snaps, well, your running back room is solidified at that point. Yeah, they'll have some crumbs to break off for Crowell and, A.K. Deer, but it's kind of like, that's pretty much a season missed. So I thought personally that Brown was a little bit better back and definitely underrated. Maybe teams had not seen him, and I thought he was really talented. He did great things in A-Day. I know that's not a full picture of Traeshon Brown, but I said I thought he was going to be top 3 running backs in the rotation. I really felt like he could take out A.K. Deer and E.J. Crowell, and it happened. Part of this is due to injuries, but I'm excited for that young man. I think he's going to do really great things. And don't be shocked if by the 4th game he's not RB number 2. And he's got a lot of ceiling. A lot of guys, weren't looking at him. He was kind of an overlooked guy in that running back room. Man, I'm fired up. I definitely think Hill is the lead number 1 back. He's got the experience. He is definitely a little bit bigger back. But watch out. Traeshon Brown, he's coming. And he's going to bring it. And I think by the end of the year, he's going to be RB number 2. So congrats to him. Like I said, there's some more injuries with a defensive line. We got some good news there. Should have been more prepared but I'll try to bring it in the next video and keep you up to date on that. But like I said, everybody, the injury bug's kind of hitting us a little bit. So hopefully we can shake that off, get ready for the season, ready for those ECU Pirates. Anyway, Tide Talk Web is out.